The first one is about the struggle when your parent is getting older in age. The comment said, my mother looks very frail now. And it's this kind of dichotomy of not wanting to hurt them, but at the same time still holding on to so much anger. And then the other comment was about grief after the parent has passed. And so I wonder, people who find your work kind of later in life, maybe when their parents have already passed and suddenly become aware of all these feelings that they have inside, how do those people deal with that when there isn't even an option to do anything external about it?
So there's a desire to be authentic, and yet there's a desire not to hurt the parent. Now, part of the reason for that, I think, is that because so many internalizer ASEPs, adult children, are so sensitive and empathic to other people, it almost hurts them more than it hurts the parent to be authentic or to take the parent to task for something that they did. I mean, it's excruciating for them because they know that it would be hurting them if they were in their parents' shoes. And they can't just tune that out because they are very sensitive, very perceptive people. So, what I always ask a person is, how would you approach your parent to see if you could tell them what you have to tell them in a way that would be less likely to elicit a defensive response? Because that's always the challenge with an emotionally immature person. If you come out swinging, they will defend themselves. I mean, their shields go up, and your words bounce off of them like pebbles, because they're going to protect themselves. They're not going to take in and be hurt by what you say if they can find any way at all to defend against it. Sometimes people get kind of confused or mixed up between being authentic and being aggressive. To be authentic could be actually very quiet. It could be very even toned. It could be a letter. It doesn't necessarily mean that you sit them down, lock eyes with them, and tell them in no uncertain terms what they've done to you. Now, you may choose to do it that way, but it's not the only way that you have. And sometimes I suggest to people that you try it in small doses. So if you say to them, I have some things I'd like to talk over with you. Could we sit down and talk for 15 minutes? Would you be willing to just listen if I told you some things that I have on my mind? And then the parent would say, well, what kind of things? um, you know, ready for the, whatever's coming. And then the person says, well, first of all, I just want to have a short conversation and tell you some things that I've always wanted to tell you, because I want to have you understand how I felt, and all I want is 15 minutes, and I just wonder, would you be willing to listen for 15 minutes? That's all. And then maybe they'll say, okay, with a sideways glance, like, what's coming? And then if you tell them the facts of what happened, I have this memory and it has bothered me for years, and this is how it affected me. And I just wanted to let you know that that is still bothering me. And I wondered, what led you to do that? Can you explain to me why you reacted to me in that way? And then maybe the parent says, well, I don't know. I don't even remember what you're talking about. I'm sure I never did or said something like that. And then you might say, well, that's my memory. And I'm wondering, of course, you don't remember. I understand that. But if you had to guess, what would you guess would have been your motive? So, in other words, you are presenting the situation to them in a way that you are telling them the facts of whatever it is that you want them to know in that little section, that little 15-minute section. And then you are having a conversation with them that is not, super confrontational. It's not aggressive. It's more stating the facts and being curious about what their memory of it was. And lots of times that's going to be the best connection that you can probably make that isn't too much for them, to the point where they close down completely and they make this all about what an awful child you are and how disrespectful you are and whatever they're going to come up with. So small doses, non-aggressive, curious, and doing it in small little bites, small little manageable bites, is a way to do it with a very defensive parent, or also with an elderly parent. Now, the part about feeling guilt, I think, is that thing about feeling like in order to be authentic, you have to download all the rage that you've had for the past 20 years. And I don't know about you, but if someone is downloading rage on me, I'm not listening very well to what they're saying because it's just too much. So we have to consider how to get the fact across in a way that the other person continues to be able to listen to us. The guilt, to switch gears here, the guilt that people feel after their parents have passed, you're going to have that no matter what. I remember being at a conference that was on treating trauma. And one of the things that the expert said was, he said, after a trauma, everybody feels guilty. They look back and they say, oh, if only I hadn't said that. If only I hadn't done that. If only I had told him. If only I hadn't gone to the store that morning, And he said, don't try to talk them out of that, because we need to be able to go back in time to the point where this thing happened and find some things that we could have controlled it with, like if I hadn't gone to the store that morning, my child wouldn't have gotten hurt, whatever. If only I had told him, don't leave, he never would have gotten in that accident. I mean, it is human nature to try to find the point at which you had control and you didn't act on it. And I thought, wow, that is so helpful, because to know that it's human nature, that you're going to look back on your relationship with your parents in this case, and you are going to feel guilt. The reason that you're feeling the guilt is because you had so little control. It's not so much that you did such a bad thing with them. It's that your subconscious mind is trying to manufacture something that you did have control over and chose not to do, or chose to do differently in a way that you now feel bad about. But it's that same instinct to go back in time and try to get a feeling of, I had control, I didn't use it, or I used it poorly. And somehow that helps. The guilt helps you feel like, well, you could have done it differently. So it could have been better. You did have some control. But I'm here to say, yeah, I don't think we do. I don't think we do have control. I think that when a parent gets to us and we get reactive to them and we do or say something that we regret, that we feel guilty for later, the question becomes, did we have a choice at that moment? With everything that was going on, with all that was happening in our lives and their lives and how that came together, did we really have a choice about our response? I mean, sometimes I think we emerge out of our circumstances in a way that is really less than personal, because we can get so reactive. We can live in the lizard part of our brain for a while as we get angry or emotional or upset, and we lose our touch with the other person. I mean, heck, we lose our touch with ourselves, and we just become a bundle of reactions. So we have to accept that. Okay, we can grieve that, we can feel guilt about it, but when you start torturing yourself with it, I just beg you to remember these things. That maybe you're trying to get back a sense of control through your regret that really couldn't have happened under the circumstances. That maybe that was an emergent event that you didn't have much control over. And also, the fact that you feel sorry about it or you feel guilty about it is just going to be one more thing in life that didn't go the way you wanted it to. And we all have to come to grips with that, because we don't have the kind of ultimate control that every one of us would love to have. We have to live in this world as best we can. And sometimes, hopefully less than, than a lot of the time, sometimes we are not able to behave or talk at a level that we would be proud of later. If that happens, we kind of have to tolerate that and feel that and learn from it, but not to be hard on ourselves or not to beat ourselves up for just being human beings who have that reactive part of the brain that operates very independently at times. We have to remember that we've got that in us because it's part of being human.